somewhere in 2013, maybe sooner, and then heavily in 2017. And now his epic compound, what we've been talking about for quite some time, has gone full on, well, mainstream media even. A DOJ investigation's underway. But how did it go this far for this long? Because the leadership of Texas has surrendered to Islam. Michael Yon will join us. Then we'll be joined by Annie Cyrus, because there is a lot of controversy today over President Donald Trump meeting with the leader of Syria, former what would be a leader of really ISIS or Al-Qaeda. We'll get to that with Annie Cyrus. And Aaron from Israel, because ballistic missiles have been going into Israel. So a lot to get to. Let's start off first with our friend Michael Yon. Michael, welcome to the broadcast and our 74 Christian radio stations along with Worldview Tube. Hope you're having a great day, Michael. Thanks for being with us.
And thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm back in Texas. As you know, I've spent about the last year downrange in Panama and South America looking at so many of these issues. And now I'm back in Texas. And speak of the devil, Governor Abbott, somebody I've warned about so many times, yesterday we took a helicopter over Colony Ridge, right? And an airplane. Luckily, our good friend Dave Cannon, good Christian man, by the way, we actually landed his helicopter in a church parking lot and talked with people there a little bit and yesterday. But we were actually going to look at Colony Ridge. And so Colony Ridge is that big colony north of Houston. And so we went in the morning in the helicopter, and a little bit too cloudy or a little bit too foggy. So we came back, let it burn off, and came back with an airplane. The good thing that's going on is since Trump has been in office, the construction at Colony Ridge has nearly stopped. There's still a little bit going on. Dave Cannon flies over every couple of weeks. He often sends me photos. So that's good news.
And by the way, this, for those who don't remember, this is gigantic area, which obviously is so big, you have to have a helicopter or plane to fly over it, where some guy down there is clearing the land and has been selling plots of land for illegal invaders to build homes, I think at high level interest rates, and then they don't make their payments, they get booted, and he resells it for a down payment and monthly payments, and maybe sells the same house 3 or 4 times. So this is a huge compound, which I don't know who it was down there in Texas, but someone down there claimed that when we interviewed you about it and Todd Bensman about it, and you two I know flew over it together at one time too, someone came out down there and said, this is not filled with a bunch of illegal invaders. That's a fake news. But you and I know it is.
It's real. And
it's
we
real.
Were back yesterday. And so it's 200,000 people. That's how real it is. And the developer, Trey Harris, has been a major donor to the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott.
Which is why this has been able to go on for years and years and years. And I think it even involved early on serious sanitation issues with how they were doing their sewage.
Oh, yeah, and it's a wetland area. And so yesterday we were back there again. Now, keep in mind, Texas is effectively a sanctuary state. Whether or not that they like to advertise themselves as such is irrelevant to the facts. The facts are Texas is a sanctuary state. In fact, the only state in the union at this point that is not a sanctuary state, I would say, is Florida. Governor DeSantis and Florida law enforcement are behind 287G, which is a provision that allows law enforcement at all levels to, if you like, say, do a traffic stop or in any reason have something to do with, arresting somebody or somebody's involved with an encounter with law enforcement, you can check ICE records to see if they're actually legally in the United States. It only takes a couple of minutes. Now, the only state that's behind this at this point is Florida. Texas is actively against it, openly against it. For instance, the Department of Public Safety, which is sort of like Texas FBI, sort of like FDLE in Florida, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. But the Texas DPS is openly against adhering to 287G. In other words, and they're crystal clear. In fact, in a Texas House testimony recently, about a month ago, there's a video. I'll put it on my Substack today, but I haven't put it up yet, but I will. I was just finishing watching it. But in this video, the Texas Department of Public Safety is actually saying that they don't want to adhere to 287G. They don't want to be involved in the mass deportations. They're crystal clear about it. And Abbott, by the way, the chair of this meeting opened the meeting. The Texas, it was testimony at the Texas House, opened it welcoming the stakeholders. Stakeholders is dog whistle for members of the World Economic Forum. They're open about it. Notice the World Economic Forum people are constantly talking about stakeholders. And keep in mind, the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, is openly a member of the World Economic Forum. I've been saying this for years. He's on their website. He'll never say a bad word about the World Economic Forum. And the World Economic Forum is one of the entities that's all about invading the United States. And Abbott has helped with this every step of the way. Often people say, no, Abbott was busing people to New York or whatever and showing the New Yorkers, what it's like. That's not what he was doing. That was fooling the most low-level people into thinking that that's what he was doing, was showing New York what it's like. No, he was clearing the banks of the Rio Grande so more could come in, which he did. Then he would go down to the Texas border. Now, keep in mind, I've been across the entire U.S. border, the entire U.S. southern border, which took months from SpaceX on the Gulf side to San Diego on the Pacific side. I've been across the whole thing. It took months. A lot of that on the Mexican side. I'm very familiar with the border. When Abbott I've spent many months just on the Texas part of the border and all up and down this border a lot. And Abbott, when he would come do his little things on the border, saying that they're unfurling, concertina wire and whatever, closing the border, it was all just acting because, just a couple miles down the way, there would be people crossing the border even while he's saying they're closing the border. It was that open. There's Abbott right there. The guy should be in prison. He's a traitor, and cowards are natural traitors, by the way. You got to be careful with cowards. He's a coward. He's a World Economic boy. He's actively destroying the great state of Texas, and MAGA needs to stand up because, there's no way Trump's going to hit his numbers. No way. Not when states like Texas are actively tripping it up. They're not just passive and worthless. They're actually active saboteurs on the repatriation. Repatriation is what it is, sending the invaders back to wherever they came from or just to some other country. We don't owe everybody a first-class ticket home. Our only mission is to get them out of the United States, get rid of them back to the United States. We can send ships up the Mississippi. We can send ships to Miami and Tampa and Jacksonville and New York, load up the ships and sail them back. For instance, it's a quick sail down to Venezuela. We can send ships full of people back to Venezuela. And if Venezuela doesn't want to open the beaches, then we can open those beaches for them.
There you go. So let me ask you this real quick. Are you saying, Michael, that the police division in Texas, they are under the control of Governor Abbott, correct?
Right.
And you're saying that they will not. You're saying that they will not deport the illegal invaders.
Nope. They're not taking part in anything big. And they'll do little twosies and threesies here and there, but they're not. Okay, here's the name of the guy. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Jason Taylor. He's the Deputy Director of Law Enforcement Operations for the DPS, the Department of Public Safety here in Texas. He said on this, I'll give you the name of the, you can find this video. It's on the Texas House of Representatives website. So it's Texas House of Representatives, Homeland Security, Public Safety, and Veterans Affairs testimony just a few weeks ago. And you can see this guy, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Taylor, Deputy Director of Law Enforcement, go to about the 41-minute mark, or just watch the whole thing is better. I mean, the guy chairing the hearings is testimony is again, he's welcoming stakeholders. That's World Economic Forum talk right there. And you get that down into about the 41-minute mark or so, 42 minutes maybe. That's when you get Lieutenant Colonel Jason Taylor, Deputy Director of Law Enforcement Operations at DPS, saying they don't want to do it, and they're not going to do it unless they're ordered to do it. Of course, Abbott's not going to order DPS to do this.
Now, let me interrupt you real quick. I am tonight Michael, and I want you to know about this. I can talk to you offline or signal with you, but I want you to be one of the first to know about it when we release it tonight. I'm going to be interviewing tonight a guy that we hired that has gone into 425 mosques in America, Dave Gobbets. You may have known his son, Chris Gobbets, whose TV and radio show he produced. He went undercover, grew the Sharia beard, went undercover in Muslim Brotherhood, came out with 12,000 documents. We hired or paid Dave, former federal agent, former military guy like yourself, to go down to Texas. We have audio, we have recordings. He went there to Epic, Yasser Qadi's place. He went to some of the other ones. We will be releasing tonight what kind of books they're promoting, what ideologies they're promoting, where they stand on child bride marriages. We'll be releasing all of that tonight. And I've been telling this audience for some time that, like you, that Greg Abbott was useless, absolutely useless. And if they can take down Texas, they can then target, which I think is their next state. I think Andy Cyrus will be on here with me in a minute. Will tell you, we think the next state they're targeting is Tennessee. But they've compromised Texas at the highest levels of government. I don't know if it's money or what it is, but the highest levels of the Texas government are compromised. They even made it Pakistani Day. They have some of these Islamic people, some of these cultural jihadists in their own legislature there in Texas. You know that, right?
I don't know the details about the Texas side, but you know, the way that these recruitments are done is normally with the four main cheeses: mice, money, ideology, coercion, and ego. So that's the four main cheeses that capture practically anybody that's easily capturable. And I don't know what cheeses they used on Abbott, or if he's just a natural traitor or whatever, but he's World Economic Forum, and many of the people around him are as well. The Texas Department of Public Safety should be standing up. And I know their boss is Abbott, but at some point you need to stand up for your state and your people and not just constantly take orders. I mean, at some point, I've watched DPS. I've published this many times when I was on the border. DPS was physically helping with the invasion, and they would push people like us back. They didn't want us even making video of them loading up the buses. DPS.
Well, now this explains, and I want to touch on this when we come back, and then I got to go to Annie and Aaron. But this helps us understand why there are all these DHS tents all over Texas. And of course, the UN, as you're exposing, with their UN gift cards, debit cards, the Department of Homeland Security under Biden were shoving them into Texas, and then Abbott was setting up camps all over his own state for them. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. We're going to go to Annie here real quick on the controversy related to the president meeting with the leader of Syria. We'll also get an update from Aaron. Let's go back real quick. Michael Yon, and his, if you want to follow him on X, it's Michael_Yon. On the, that's off the top of my memory, guys. I hope I'm right. Is that right, Michael?
What's that? I'm sorry, sir.
Your X account, Michael_Yon?
Yes, sir. But I'm actually mostly on Substack, although I do go on X. But yeah, in fact, I just put up some of the material about the flight that I took a couple flights yesterday over the Colony Ridge. came with a helicopter in the morning. It was a little too foggy, so I let it burn off and came back with an airplane. The colony's so big, you can't really get it with a helicopter. You need to come back, and you can't fly too high over there, unfortunately, because there's an international airport not far away. So you got these ceiling problems to deal with there. And it's a huge colony. It's 200,000 people. And again, that's just one. This is actually colonialization. That's why they call it Colony Ridge. And I mean, it's straight up. They don't hide it.
Yeah, and this would explain why Abbott was allowing all of these tents that you, Michael Yon, Anthony Rubin with Muckraker, were doing all these drones showing these humongous tents in Texas, and we were like, why are they putting up what look like could be concentration camps for those of us who maybe don't want to go along with COVID or next pandemic? And a lot of them were empty, and we were being told, oh, they're for refugees, and we're like, well, where are the refugees? Is it like there's anybody in these things? And so I don't know what that's all about, but knowing that Abbott is so compromised explains why he was allowing those tents, which even some of the local people didn't know they were there. When you guys would go looking for them, the locals didn't know what you're talking about because they were maybe 5 miles outside of town, off the beaten path. They didn't even know these huge complexes were there. Some of them did, but some of the folks Anthony Rubin and others ran into didn't even know what he was talking about. Yet these complexes are huge, a few miles outside of town, I guess surrounded by trees or whatever.
Speaking of Anthony Rubin, Tip, you're going to want to have him on soon. Some things have been happening over in Paris, and I'm going to let him tell you about it, but it's very important, and you're going to want to have him on. Anthony Rubin is unbelievable. I took him down to the Darien Gap before, and then we went across most of the border together, actually, from Texas over to California. And then we did a lot of other things together. And then Anthony went back he flew down to Quito, Ecuador, and then he actually went all the way through the Darien Gap with Chinese and others. Then he got kidnapped in Mexico.
That's right.
And I was actually tracking his tracker when he got kidnapped. And so I realized he was kidnapped before he was able to. Well, anyway, he was let loose later. But in any case, that was down near SpaceX, but on the Mexican side, where they had killed Americans about a year before that. But something, again, just happened to Anthony yesterday in Paris, and let him tell you about that. But Anthony Rubin knows more about the situation than almost anybody on the planet at this point. He was just down in Africa looking at it, just like Masako Ganaha and I. We've been to 30 countries in the last 4 years looking at these flows. We've been all across the United States looking at the flows, and we've been to Canada and Morocco and all over the place looking at these the architecture of the invasions. And you can see what's happening in Texas. Actually, Matt Bracken, by the way, he's in Ireland right now. I helped him get set up over there. Ireland is being completely invaded. That's just one of the countries. Sweden, of course, Luxembourg, one country after another. And Texas is obviously on the menu. The governor is completely captured. He is behaving in the interest of our enemies, clearly. And it's beyond just lazy and stupidity. This is clear, active measures to destroy the United States. Governor Abbott is clearly acting as an enemy.
At Michael_Yon, at Michael_Yon, and Yon is Y-O-N. And then what is your Substack, Michael?
Substack, again, my name, Michael Yon, Yankee Oscar November, Y-O-N.
So substack.michaelyon.com.
Yes, sir.
All right. Michael, as always, great reporting. Now, you're back in the country for the first time in a long time. You going to be coming anywhere near Tennessee?
Possibly. In fact, I've been overseas for the last year tracking these flows and, of course, warning about the Panama Canal issue, because this is all related. These things with the invasions and the drugs and all these other things, they're all related to Panama, Suez, Bab el-Mandeb, Strait of Hormuz, Malacca. I'm watching all these things and going to country after country and looking at this is a comprehensive war. This is not just people leaking over the border.
All right, let's see if we can talk off air, pay you an honorarium, your flight, hotel, and get you up here for 24 hours.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll get in touch with you as soon as we get off the air. Be safe, my friend.
Thank you.
Michael Yon checking in at Michael_Yon for X, or Michael Yon, Substack.michaelyon.com. Or is it michaelyon.substack.com? Which one is it, Logan? michaelyon.substack.com. All right. He also has a website, I think, which is also just michaelyon.com. All right. Joining me now is Annie Cyrus. We'll go to Aaron. Annie, thank you for your patience. We dropped that in at the last minute because this is going viral today, this story. The government of Texas at the highest levels has surrendered to the invaders, including Islam, Pakistan Day, Yasser Qadi's there. The DOJ is investigating. Greg Abbott's full of hot air, like we've been saying. He's full of tweets, but no action. This is exactly what we thought. Now it's being further confirmed that basically the DHS of Texas refuses to participate, according to Michael Yon's reporting, in getting the illegal invaders out of the country, out of Texas. Before we move into some other topics with you, what do you make of that report? Yeah, unmute yourself there, Annie, if you would, please. Unmute your button.
There we go. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not surprised. I agree with what you said. Me and you have said Greg Abbott does a lot of talking, a lot of tweeting, but he doesn't take action. He never has. I mean, some of the people underneath him has done some small steps, but I'm not shocked. Abbott I agree with what Michael said. He's a coward. He has always been a coward. He's going to do a lot of talking. Am I surprised that even his investigation? Remember when they said, "Oh, Abbott's going to have, Ken Paxton investigate Epic City," all of that. We knew it's going to be just talks, nothing else. He's getting a lot of interviews. Give him that credit. He was recently on Fox News again talking about Epic City and how they're going to stop it and how it's all criminal. But then when it comes to real action, most of them don't. Not just Greg Abbott.
We sent Dave Gobbets. You heard me say we sent Dave Gobbets in undercover to go down there and investigate, to find out what's going on, what do they teach, what's their worldview, like we don't know, what's their ideology, what books are being sold, what are they teaching. He has a full report. He'll bring that to us tonight on Brandon House Live. His full report, recordings, we have all kinds of stuff. His full report tonight on Brandon House Live at worldviewtube.com. But this helps us understand why Texas is absolutely capitulating to Islam. And then I hate to say it, next on the list is Tennessee.
Yes, I believe, if I recall correctly, Yasser Qadi himself already said that they're going to build Epic City 2.0 in Tennessee. He has already named the next state. They haven't said where in Tennessee. My best guess is somewhere in Nashville, Tennessee, because Nashville is the most conquered in Tennessee as far as Islamization goes.
Yeah.
But that's just a guess. But he has said it, that 2.0, Epic City 2.0 is going to be in Tennessee.
Wow. Well, and by the way, folks, our national conference is coming up October 3rd and 4th. My wife was at a function last night with the wife of the chief of police in our town. And they were visiting, and it came up. Did you guys know that Collierville, Tennessee has recently been rated the safest town in the state of Tennessee? So I mention all that because A, that's where I live, and B, that's where we're having our fall conference. So it has been rated the safest town in Tennessee. Collierville, Tennessee has been. And so I hope you'll join us this fall, October 3rd and 4th. That's a Friday night and a Saturday, our 22nd annual Worldview Weekend Conference. Full details at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. All right, Annie, let's talk about Trump's meeting with the leader of Syria. You and I were on the phone this morning about it. I knew right away I got to call Annie. And then my next thing was to call Hadia. She's also a former Muslim, worked in the State Department, high places in government, dealing with the issue of Islamic terrorism. And I thought, well, I got to call Hadia, who, by the way, will be our keynote speaker at our Thursday night banquet, the Worldview Foundation Thursday night banquet that Thursday night, which is optional. You'll find that at worldviewstore.com. So she was next that I was going to call. Well, while I was on the phone with you, she didn't know I was going to call her. While I'm on the phone with you, she's blowing up my text. She's livid. She's going to be on tonight on Brandon House Live. But I had to come to you this is making some controversy today. President Trump meeting and shaking hands with the leader of Syria. Remind our audience who he is.
So Ahmed al-Sharar is a jihadist. He is a terrorist. He has bloods of tens of thousands of innocent people, including Christians, on his hand for simply being Christian. He has started off at Al-Qaeda, then started the Al-Qaeda Syrian chapter. Now, he has recently, I should put this out there, right after he was placed, when he was given the crown on, I believe, January 29th of 2025 as the leader of Syria, he did come out and denounced Al-Qaeda. However, in action, of course not. He was the rebel, leader of the rebel that was trying to overthrow Assad pretty much from day one. And as mentioned on my Substack that just came out right before we went on air, he was picked for whatever reason. He was picked by others to replace Assad. And now they put him on a suit, trimmed his beard, taught him how to smile, and are walking him around the globe, introducing him as this wonderful, modern, reformed leader of Syria that's going to make Syria great again.
Okay. So why did President Trump do this? Well, part of my thoughts are, Annie, it's just my thought. President Trump, I think there's a little something going on between him and Benjamin Netanyahu. And I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu did himself any favors when he threw President Trump under the bus right after the election against Joe Biden. And everyone was, on the conservative side was trying to still get their arms around whether that was a free and fair election. It was still being debated. Investigations were still going. And here's Benjamin Netanyahu on Twitter congratulating Biden, and the polls, the election polls had hardly closed. So he kind of like he knew what was coming. He's selling his country out, by the way, to the shot, making them lab rats for Pfizer and other drug-like companies. We got that on video. I thought it was AI. I thought it was fake. Turned out it was real. So he threw Trump under the bus, and Trump comes back, has him at the White House. But we're hearing behind the scenes there's serious friction, and I think President Trump now is going to go negotiate with the other side, and this is really putting Netanyahu in a tough spot. When I come back, I want to know what you think is happening. I think President Trump, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, all these presidents want to be the one to be known for bringing peace to the Middle East, right? Some huge historic deal. I think President Trump is trying to negotiate the biggest deal probably had in world history, really. And he's playing both sides to the middle, but I have to wonder if he's also using this to pressure and get concessions out of Benjamin Netanyahu. We'll hear from Annie right after this. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to MyPillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please go to MyPillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at MyPillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Apparently, Minneapolis state leaders have been told there may be a pardon coming for Derek Chauvin, the police officer involved in the George Floyd arrest. Apparently, and we've covered that an awful lot with Liz Collin out of the Twin Cities. Floyd didn't die there in the street. He's the one that asked to be put on the ground. He died at the hospital. Many people, I think, believe he was choked out right there in the street. But the guy was following his training. It was in the manuals to do what he did. Whether we agree with it or not, it was in the manuals. So that's an issue of training. But he didn't die there. He died at the hospital, and apparently it was a heart attack. And there were reportedly lots of drugs in his system. So now that the truth is coming out, Minneapolis leaders are reportedly being told, KSTP Channel 5 is reporting, Minneapolis and state leaders are preparing for possible Derek Chauvin pardon and then the wild protests that could get underway. Ooh, well, let's pray that doesn't happen. All right, let's go back to Annie Cyrus, liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.com. Annie, before the break, I said what I think President Trump's doing, what his goals and objectives are. What do you think? Is this what he's doing? Is this the game he's playing, the big strategy here?
I would say yes, you're definitely spot on. But I will also add that you don't right a wrong by doing more wrong. And that's what
Wait, I'm
Trump
going to make
is
sure our
doing.
audience understand because of your beautiful accent. You don't right a wrong by doing more wrong. Is that what you just said?
Exactly. That's what Trump's doing. Again, I will plug the Substack. I literally named it When Trump Played Obama's Game. He is literally playing Obama's game, and we got to call it what it is. He is making mistakes. If this is on a personal issue of Netanyahu, and you know, we both have criticized Netanyahu plenty, so
Yep.
neither one of us are sitting here blindly saying, oh, we got to support Bibi. No, we don't. Regardless of what Netanyahu has done, it doesn't give President Trump the right to go and start legitimizing terrorists, jihadists. This is no different than Biden or Obama or Clinton. You want to make a deal, that's fine. As we have discussed again, there are other options. There are other ways to make a deal. But in order to make history, you don't go and literally look the other way. As I said, this man has killed innocent Christians based on being Christians. How do you go and shake his hand and reward him? And let's not mention, you just talked about the shake of the hand, but let's talk about what I talked about in that Substack. With no talks, before they meet, before they shake hands, last night, President Trump just came out and say, oh, by the way, while I'm at it, I'm lifting all sanctions from Syria. All sanctions. Not a single sanction is left on Syria. If that's not awarding a jihadist, what is it, Brandon?
Now, maybe let me play devil's advocate. He's saying to do that, though, you're going to have to recognize the state of Israel, correct?
No. As of right now, there are no terms. He
There
hasn't
are
put
no
up any
terms.
There are no terms. He just said we're lifting sanctions on Syria. And I will tie this to when he sent his representatives to Republican House representatives to Syria 2 weeks ago to sit down and talk a strategy on making Syria great again. Videos are out there, pictures are out there, posing with the actual banner of Make Syria Great Again. He sent them there. This is his first step to make Syria great again. It has nothing to do with Israel. It has nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. It has nothing to do with anything except Trump's plan to make Syria great again. You don't make anything great again as long as you're shaking hands and making deals with a fake smile of a jihadist. And I don't believe for a second he doesn't know this.
Now,
I'm sorry.
Is he after minerals in Syria? Is he wanting to put have our military bases be secure in Syria? Is he wanting minerals? Or put a gas pipeline or oil line? What is he wanting?
All of the above, and
All the above. Does he want a golf course?
Exactly.
A hotel?
Well, no, he's doing that in Qatar.
Okay.
He did on a personal business side of not for, as a president, but personally, he is purchasing land in Qatar while he's there receiving the gift, which is a jet. But he's spending money there buying land in Qatar, which is a topic for another day, I guess. But no, he wants all of the above. Plus, he's trying to force Iran's hand. Remember, who's in charge of Syria is enemy of Iran. He's enabling this jihadist to force Iran's hand when it comes to his Iran deal.
Okay, so there we go. I'm going to stop right there for a second. They're going to bring in Aaron. So there is a method to his madness, whether we agree with it or not. He sees this as a way to maneuver people to do what he wants them to do. So I can go over here and cut a deal with this leader of Syria, as disgusting as Trump may find him, to get Benjamin to do what I need Benjamin to do, to get Iran to do what I need them to do. Then I'm going to start talking to all the players and negotiate with all of them, and I'm going to treat some people they hate a certain way, which maybe causes them to come to heel and realize they're going to do what I tell them to do. Because I'm Donald Trump, I'm the president, I'm going to cut a deal, I'm going to do what I have to do to get the deal, and I'm not playing your games, Benjamin. I'm not playing your games there, Ayatollah. This is the way it's going to be. So Benjamin Netanyahu must be having some sleepless nights right now.
If I were him, I would have a sleepless night. But also, if I was him, I would say, okay, if this is how we're going to do it, if we're going to do what we think is good for our legacy, then I'm taking Iran out. That's what I would do.
Then I'm taking Iran out. Okay, I'm going to strike Iran. Which of course, he could play that side and say, okay, fine. I'm going to strike Iran, and I'm going to do it with U.S. planes that we bought from you, and I'll make sure Iran knows it, and that's going to awaken the sleeper cells in your country. So you want to play that game? Right?
But
now, I'm not saying he would do that. I'm just saying if you wanted to start doing this pressure thing, Netanyahu could push some pressure points for America.
Exactly. And anybody out there, I can't tell you how many people have commented on my Substack with 3D chess, 5D chess, 12D chess. Soon we're going to have 24D chess. Apparently he's playing. Everybody can play it. The point is, anyone except Trump doing it gets criticism. There is outrage. But when Trump does it, we play it as, well, there's a strategy. You don't make a deal with the devil. I don't care what you're reaching for. We just don't do that. As Christians, as Americans, as humans, as freedom-loving people, we don't make a deal with the devil to force somebody else to give us the outcome we want. What I call that is arrogant and selfish. Enabling jihadists in Middle East who have their sleeper cells right here in America is playing with the fire.
Okay, let's bring in Aaron, who's been listening to all this from Israel. Aaron, welcome. You're on with Andy Cyrus. Thank you for being with us. Aaron, unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Hey, great to be with you both. I'm waiting to respond. I'm enjoying hearing you both. And this is an insane situation we've never been in before. And I've been looking at our television correspondents, listening to what they're saying about the whole situation. Let's not forget that Bibi was with Trump a couple of weeks ago in Washington. They did a lot of talking there. One of our major television programs is saying, look, why should Trump come all the way to Israel? He's had his time with Bibi. Does he really need to come to Israel? And maybe that's the only reason why he is not coming to Israel. The press are they're making a lot of
assumptions. They're making a lot of assumptions. I get that. But Benjamin Netanyahu also walked out of the West Wing holding Trump's book that he was given, The Art of the Deal. So I don't know if that was a little bit of a schooling him or what. I don't know. But I want to get to what are your people in Israel saying about President Trump meeting with the leader of Syria? What are they saying about that?
Yeah, everyone is very, very cautious, of course. But let's not forget, in 1977, Menachem Begin made a deal with Anwar Sadat. Anwar Sadat also had a lot of blood on his hands. Now, Anwar Sadat had a very different disposition. He was very friendly. He initiated part of it as well. He said enough bloodshed, and he shook hands with Jimmy Carter, with Menachem Begin. We've had peace ever since. Donald Trump said recently, he said, there are going to be some strong, courageous, tough decisions. Now, maybe that's all that he's doing. I agree with Ani that it seems selfish what he's doing. He's going out on the wing. Maybe he is throwing Bibi under the bus. I don't know. I think it could be the other, that he's just saying, look, we've got to get something changed in the Middle East. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to do all that I can. And yes, if it means forcing these people like Syria into making a deal, let's see. We'll go in with one eye open with hope, but also one eye of caution, knowing very well that a month ago he had a $10 million bounty on his head. Donald Trump is not stupid, but on the other hand, he's not 100% foolproof either. He may be deceived. He may end up getting deceived. We don't know, because that's the thing with Muslim leaders. They can lie. They can break an agreement. They can deceive. So our nation, Brannon and Ani, we're waiting to see how this is going to unfold. No one knows. No one knows what is truly going on. Some people are even saying that maybe what Trump is doing, he's trying to get all the Sunni nations to somehow get together against the Shia nations, meaning that there's some plan to isolate even more the Iranians. On the other hand, just today, Trump was saying it looks positive that maybe we are going to get a breakthrough with the Iranians. So there's two sides he's talking about. But again, I wish I had the answers. And it just seems that we're in the waiting zone.
So you don't seem as upset about this as Annie. Aaron?
I'm sorry, Brandon. Can I just jump in? It's great to see you again, Aaron. Let me ask you a question. And I say this with all due respect. What is the threshold for all people involved, Jewish people of Israel, Iranians who are being killed every day, Syrians, Christian, what is the threshold of we're done waiting? How long more? Like 200 years? 250 years? I guess that's where I'm at. Why do we constantly wait for an American leader to make everything happen? No. It's 2025. Everybody has what it takes to settle this once and for all, whichever way they pick to do it. I think my disagreement is everybody needs to stop waiting on Trump or Biden or Obama or Hillary or Reagan or whomever it might be. Middle East is Middle East. It has its own shape. It's the oldest land we know in our history of human history. And we're sitting, allowing one individual that something is our savior, something is a bad orange man. Some of us think he's got a good moment and a bad moment, but all of us waiting for one man to make it happen.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Ani, he has delivered. He delivered in his first term. He delivered the Abraham Peace Accords. I'm not saying I'm totally for the Abraham Peace Accords. He's wanting to get other nations into the Abraham Peace Accords.
But let me ask you this: how long did that last?
Well, it still exists today.
All right, let's pick this up. This is excellent. Let's keep this. I wish we didn't have a hard break. Let's keep this going on their side. This is good. Be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Let's go right back to it. I wasn't expecting this. I was thinking that Aaron was going to be right in the same vein as Annie, so I'm a little shocked by this, because I would think that you guys in Israel would be a little nervous about this. But It is what it is. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Pick it back up. The Abraham Accords. Yesterday, we had Sharam on and Usama Doc who were saying, look, this is a political and a spiritual agreement, and both of them are opposed to it. But pick it up. Go ahead. I mean, Aaron, respond to the last question from Annie.
I'm sorry. Can you just repeat that last question?
Well, I was. You said he has delivered, and my question was when. But let me be more specific on my question. I'm not talking about his first term. I'm talking about this time. Since inauguration until today, how many bad deals has he just made with Hamas and Houthis?
Yeah. No, listen, no doubt that there is massive risk. And let me tell you, we are watching it with eyes wide open. We've got a very, very vulnerable border on the north with Syria, with Lebanon. We ain't going to let even Donald Trump make a decision that's going to put us in jeopardy. I personally don't believe that Trump has thrown us under the bus. I believe that he still has our best interest at heart. He's done nothing. He keeps affirming Israel. He even said today, because he was questioned about his involvement in the Middle East over these last few days, he said, everything I've done is actually for Israel's good.
So do you think the issue here is, Benjamin? Do you think the issue is that the prime minister is not coming to the table with President Trump to work out a good deal and move things along in your country and bring peace?
No, I think it's what I started off saying, Brandon. Because Donald Trump is not coming to Israel, the press and the media, they're making it bigger than it is. I don't think there's a real rift that people are saying between Bibi and Trump. I think it probably could just be Trump spent time a couple of weeks ago in Washington with Bibi. He doesn't really need to come to Israel. He is going out. He said there needs to be courage. There needs to be boldness in moving ahead. And so in answer to Ani, I actually think Trump is doing stuff. Now, we don't know the outcome of what he's doing. And listen, I share with you major concerns about this terrorist, Jolani, who he's making a deal with. Just because he's wearing a suit doesn't mean that he still doesn't have blood on his hands. But Donald Trump says, and I quote him, he said something today like, just because someone's bad doesn't mean he has to always stay that way, or something like that, he said. So he's giving it a chance. But like I said before, I don't think Donald Trump is stupid. He knows very well the history of Jolani.
Well, let's pick that history. History, that's the key word. President Trump is trying to negotiate the biggest deal in world history. And I'm not faulting him. I'm not saying he shouldn't. I mean, really, from a Bible prophecy standpoint, I'd like to see some deal get on the table that somebody can come and confirm. I don't want it to be Donald Trump that confirms it. I want it to be somebody else, and I think it will be. So from a Bible prophecy standpoint, I'm like, let's move the game. So I'm good with this. But I think that's what's going on here, Annie. President Trump is going to try to go down in history with doing the biggest deal no one has ever been able to do. This is what he's doing. He's making his place in history.
At what cost?
Yeah, Annie, that's exactly what I was going to address. Even though I agree with Brandon, even though that's what I'm sensing, he's going to make a big deal. But, and that's what I said before, the problem is with these radical Muslims, they can break agreements, they can break covenants. And I believe, even though it may come across as a good deal to begin with, in the end, we're going to pay for it. We will pay for it.
Thank you.
And this is Annie's point. And this is Annie's point, by the way. Why? I want to make sure our audience understands the context. Annie being from Iran, Persian, okay? She's watched her country go from being a free country to under the slavery and tyranny and terrorism of Islam. And she is sick and tired of waiting. The Persian people are sick and tired of waiting and being told, just wait, the right leader will come along. And what she wants, I think, to see, Annie, you want to see is President Trump using his power, the intelligence community, and help the people of of Iran rise up, put down maybe the power grid, paralyze the military, and let the people run over top of them and take your country back, right?
Exactly, because again, especially that this time around, Trump has official offer on his desk from Prince Pahlavi. This is the first time in the last
Which, for those who don't know,
years,
is the Shah of Iran's son.
crowned son. He never lost the crown. He has never been decrowned. So even by international law, not that we have never done illegal things, but it is absolutely by the book for President Trump to just, you know what? We're risking shaking hands of jihadists. How about he risks shaking hand of Prince Pahlavi in Washington once?
Well, you and I said over a month ago, he should have the prince in the Oval Office in one of those yellow chairs in front of the fireplace.
Exactly. He doesn't have to go shake al-Sharar's hand to force Iran's regime. All he had to do was sit down in front of that fireplace with Prince Pahlavi, and it would be the same force Iran's facing today.
Meaning
actually,
to Iran, if you don't straighten up, we're going to have a regime change, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to put this guy in power.
Exactly.
By the
Why do
way-
we have to enable another jihadi to scare another jihadi?
By the way, if there is a rift between Bibi and Trump, some of our analysts are saying that's the reason, because Bibi wants America to go and attack the regime and strike their nuclear sites.
I'm with Netanyahu on that one.
Yeah, and so is a lot of the public here, Ani, and that's why maybe Bibi has a beef with Trump, because Trump doesn't want to at this stage. He wants to do everything he can to bring about a diplomatic solution. So maybe that's why Bibi is upset with Trump. That's what they're saying.
Wow.
And if that's the case, I agree with him 100%. It's one of the rare times I would say he is looking at it from a rational point of view, him being Netanyahu. And that's the thing. Again, just going back to Gaza versus Israel, Hezbollah versus Israel, Syria versus Israel, IRGC, Houthis. How many times diplomacy worked? Never. Why would Trump read the same book over and over and over and still somehow thinks he's so good that he's going to make a great deal, the best deal in history without...
What a broadcast. Guys, stay tuned for Crosstalk. LiveUpToFreedom.com and Aaron in Israel. Take care. And we're back with both of those on WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube. We got a few more minutes here on this side. Guys, this has been a fascinating back and forth. Now, Annie, you know that I have people, I'm surrounded by people on both sides of this one. Some of them are on the Pete Hegseth, Susie Wiles side, which is no, try diplomacy, don't strike Iran. I have been on that side only because I don't think our country is ready for the terrorist attacks. If we have no choice but to go after Iran, then I think that needs to be an Oval Office address that says we're going to do this, and you guys, you need to calmly go out and get about 6 months worth of food and water and be ready for terror cells. You need to be careful about going to big events with big crowds. You need to be careful about the power grid going down. And we need to be a nation like we did with World War II. We need to be stocked up and ready, because otherwise we're going to have pandemonium if we start having terror cells, an attack on the infrastructure, and the grid going down. And I think our country is full of a bunch of weak people, by and large, that couldn't hardly go 2 weeks without power, because very few people think about making preparations. I think if he's going to do this, he's got to bring the American people up to speed, or we're going to have a massive problem with civil unrest if we have terror cells take down critical infrastructure for more than a few days. What say you?
Or for once, we could reverse the formula, and United States of America could get some advice from Israeli government and military, because they've been dealing with daily 3 to 5 times a day terrorist attack in their country. So maybe for once we should listen to them instead of expecting them to listen to us constantly. Second thing, if United States of America had what it took to arrest over 200 people after January 6th, finding them and their addresses and their mothers and their cousins, We have what it takes to at least pick up half of these sleeper cells.
Well, you're right about that. You're right about that.
Sorry,
But
my gloves are completely off today.
No, that's
I'm not
fine.
backing down anymore.
No, I don't. This is perfect. This is what we want. We want the truth. But Annie, we got weak, compromised, yellow-bellied cowards like the governor of Texas. Sorry,
Yes.
Governor of Texas. So you really think they're going to go round up the terror cells? I mean, I think, in my opinion, they're letting the jihadis build their facilities in Texas in open daylight.
And that's when federal government takes over. Kash Patel will put
this
together a
is
team.
where we have to suspend habeas corpus. This is where we have to implement the Insurrection Act, and Trump has to become Abraham Lincoln, right?
Exactly.
I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying that's what would do, but that's the only place you can go if you have massive terror cells all over the country, and you have weak Republican, rhino, sniveling, yellow-bellied cowards like Greg Abbott. You have no choice but to put into place your presidential powers and secure the nation.
Exactly. America first was his slogan, wasn't it?
Aaron, what do you make of what we're saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. And listen, Trump's only been the president for 3 months. He's trying to implement what we're talking about. Now, he has obviously, some of the men that he's chosen, they've been exposed to be a little bit weak. And hopefully he'll hold them accountable, review, and fire and hire again. But something I want to go back to about what we were talking about. Why is Trump going about with this, trying to make these deals with all these Middle Eastern nations? Let's not forget, again, what Annie just said about making America great again is to strengthen America's economy. Look at the money that Trump is getting from these deals. He's not talking in the billions. He's already mentioning the word trillion. And that's before Saudi Arabia get on board here. Once the Saudis really get involved, we talk about the city Neom that the Saudis are building. We talk about the peace route that he wants to connect Asia with Europe. I think he's got a bigger vision than we know. I think he's starting slow, but the economy. Now, I think it's great that he's thinking of the economy, but I think what we're talking about, he's a bit blind. If he had the right people in power, if he had the right people in security, I think it would make us all feel a little bit more secure. But it just seems that he's going maybe a little bit too fast, and he's not considering, or at least he's not thinking of history. Brandon, you talked about history before. Does he know the history of Islam? Does he know what Muslim leaders do after making agreements, that they can break the agreements in the name of Allah? Does he know this history?
Very good questions.
He does. You know why he does? When he walked away from Iran deal in his first term, he actually mentioned that this was a disastrous deal from day one in the history, because we know that these mullahs don't keep their promises.
That's our broadcast. Folks, where else will you hear this other than here? Worldviewfoundation.com. Live up to freedom.
You are watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing.